right now we will actually have our innovation, technology, and small business portion of the program, and we will have two speakers. The first one will come up, and he has about 15 minutes or so. That will be Dr. Joseph Grant, Deputy Program Executive with Small Business Innovation Research and STTR with the Space Technology Mission that we're at NASA headquarters. Dr. Grant.
Thank you. And again, good morning. I'm happy to have the opportunity to share. She tried to hide the clicker from me. So for the SBIR STTR program, I'm the deputy executive for this program for NASA. There are 11 agencies who offer an SBIR program. We are one of those offerers to the SBIR program. How many of you know anything about SBIR or how many of you have participated? I know you do, Eve. Eve is our counsel for our SBIR program. And we really enjoy having her working with us. Anyone have a current award with an SBIR, NASA SBIR, or any SBIR?
What does it stand for?
SBIR is Small Business Innovation Research. STTR is Small Business Technology Transfer. All right? As shown there on the screen. So for the NASA's program, we have a vision for our program, the NASA program, to empower small businesses so that you can deliver technical innovation that contributes to our overall mission and provide societal benefits and ultimately grows the economy. Now, NASA, and shown below, you will see what our mission statement is. Through this program, we want to create opportunities that through our SBIR and STTR awards for you to leverage small business knowledge and technology development for the maximum impact and contributions. Our program offers over the life of the program, we've awarded in the SBIR, STTR, over $3 billion in research-intensive type of work to American small businesses. Typically within our program, there are about more than 12,000, there are engineers and scientists from over 12,000 small businesses in over 50 states, including DC, Puerto Rico, have participated. The SBIR program, we call it a set-aside program. Typically, any agency whose extramural research is $100 million or so are mandated to offer an SBIR program, and that's usually 3.2%. That's across any agency who does at least $100 million of extramural research. The STTR program, it's a little bit smaller program, but works in concert with the SBIR program, and it works specifically with small businesses and research institutions, helping to foster the partnerships between small businesses and research institutions. Programs agencies who do at least $1 billion in extramural research are federally mandated to offer an STTR program. And that is roughly about 0.5% of that $1 billion budget that they have. So The statutory requirement for an STTR is that a small business who want to participate in this program must partner with a research institution. Research institution could be a university, state-supported, anyway, or nonprofit. So these are some of the agencies who participate. Of those 11 agencies I mentioned, 5 of them do $1 billion or more in research, and they offer an STTR program as well. These slides will be offered as well after the program is over. Here are some of the eligibility requirements to participate in both programs. Typically, you would have to be at least 51% U.S.-owned business. And for an STTR program, one thing I pull out of these is that for the STTR program, you may have the PI, principal investigator, can be from either the research institution or from the small business. One thing to note is the contract is always given to the small business. No. We work with 4 mission directors at NASA. 4 mission directors at NASA, and these are those 4 mission directorates. So we are sort of an on-ramp to research within NASA, working with all 4 of those mission directorates. And so if you want to know what we do and what our problem statements are, you will go to our website, and I'll just throw it out there for you. It'll be sbir.nasa.gov. What did I just say? Just want to make sure you understand. Why would you want to work with them? Here are some of the reasons you would want to work with SBIR. You have an opportunity to leverage your expertise. There are about 7 of them, and here's some other reasons why you would want to work with a research institution. For a small business, most of the time, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 people may not have some of the equipment, some of the intellectual properties and then you can leverage those research institutions. Myself being a former researcher in the area of physics and optical physics, I'm very familiar with a lot of the equipment that they have and the expertise they have in a lot of the universities. So you can utilize that to fund that research. Here are some of the differences between agencies who offer the SBIR STTR program. The differences are, as shown here, we are a contracting agency. Some of the larger ones are contracting agency, as you see below. Others are granting agencies. The difference between the two being one will typically be a user, end user. Those who are contracting agencies are typically end users. Those who are granting agencies are usually not end users. So we actually plan to use some of the stuff we get through our solicitation. The program offers, it is a 3-phased program. Typically from phase 1, you have 1.25K for a feasibility study or concept study. The STTR and SBIR both offer that. It's 125. That's NASA's part of it. Others may offer 150 for phase 1 concept study. The second phase will be a prototype, and that's around about 750K, and that runs for about 24 months. Let me back up one moment. On the SBIR, you get 6 months to finish that feasibility study. On NASA's STTR, you get 13 months to finish that feasibility study. After the phase 2, the prototype is done, you have opportunity for other funding to try to transition the technology from the lab to the market through commercialization or infusion, and that's what we would like to do, and we offer a post-phase 2 types of funding. I can talk with you more about those after we at the matchmaking. Okay. One thing to note that the intellectual property is your property. We don't take it away from you. You have to give it to us. Okay, but we do have a right to use. Thank you. So since we paid for it, the research, we do have a right to use, but we won't take your property. It is yours. You have a protection period. For the DoD type agencies, you have 5 years for your data use and 4 years for civilian agencies. But again, government has free royalty to use that property. And I think this shows the types of people awards that we have. 34% of them usually new
companies
award
successful in
we have several
SBIR.
other
That's one of
programs
the
that help
I-Corps. We can talk about that. We also participate in the Mentor Protege program. If you want to find out some of the things that we look for, take a look at our solicitation. It will be where.sbir.nasa.gov, and you can look at all the solicitation we've done since 1992. You can look at all those solicitations, and you'll see what we look for. Here, our current solicitation is set up in focus areas, and there are 22 focus areas you might look at. These are some of the topics that we look for. STTR specifically look at what we call our space technology roadmaps. How do you submit? These are things you want to look at when you want to put in your application. Take a look at that. It is very important that you follow those instructions. And our solicitation is closed for this year, but it again will open in January of 2019. If you have any questions, you may contact us where? sbr.nasa.gov, or you can call us at the help desk, 301-937-088. Do I have any questions? Okay, you may hold them till the end. Okay, and there are a few success stories, but you can take a look at them. Companies are quite successful. Some of them are provided in our program. So when you get a chance, take a look at some of the successes that the small business. You see some of them on the space station, see some of them on Mars with the Mars rover. Small businesses are doing a lot of that work. Yes. That's my presentation.
We're going to have all the questions at the end after Jason Rebello's presentation. At this time, we will have Jason Rebello, the director of Invent Illinois program, which is a federal state technology program, the FAST program, and it's housed within the Women's Business Development Center. At this time, Jason Rebello.
Thank you for having me, especially given how few hands went up regarding SBIR and STTR. I'm happy to be here to kind of help continue to shed some light on it. Just briefly, background on myself. I am a serial entrepreneur. My last company was Speechlight. It was technology that was developed out of the University of Notre Dame to help neurologists detect and diagnose speech disorders via an app. And the reason why that's significant is because it was actually developed out of the University of Notre Dame and initially funded through the STTR program through NSF. So I've had the opportunity to actually take a technology out of a university lab, get it funded by the federal government, and actually bring it into the commercialized space. And today, I am the director of Invent Illinois, which is a grant-funded program through the SBA to actually increase awareness about the SBIR program. The FAST grant, Federal and State Technology Partnership Grant, is essentially a grant that's designed to both increase awareness for all businesses to gain access to essentially free money, free R&D money from the federal government if your technology or your innovation is addressing a specific need of that agency, right? It's not just, I have a great company, I have a great product, can you give me some money? It's, does my technology or innovation actually fulfill a need of one of the many agencies that are funding SBIR and STTR? And then in addition to just creating general awareness, what they also want is to increase access to minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses and companies. So the FAST grant is awarded to one entity in each state that has the opportunity to actually receive this funding, create whatever type of programming they want to actually help individual businesses apply to the SBIR program across any agency, whether it's NASA, whether it's NIH, whether it's NSF, depending on where your innovation or your product or your technology might fit. So the Women's Business Development Center was the awardee for the state of Illinois, and it was awarded, I think, for many reasons. One, it's a trusted entity within the state, but two, it's uniquely positioned to be able to do some outreach and recruitment to these traditionally underserved populations, finding women, minority, and veteran-owned innovators and business owners to bring into the SBIR program. Invent Illinois itself is not just open to women, minorities, and veterans. It's open to any business entity that has an innovation that they want to try to get funding. NASA funds their phase 1 up to $125,000. NSF, the National Science Foundation, will give you up to $225,000 to go through that initial feasibility study. So the money is real, the money is there. It can be a very tedious process. It's why you find most of the people that apply to it are university professors or researchers, because they have the time to be able to do that. Most small businesses are trying to actually run their business. So the idea of trying to set aside time to write a grant, as tedious as a federal government grant, can be daunting. But the goal of Invent Illinois is to actually help kind of hands-on with those companies, walk them through a phased approach, creating tangible outputs that then go into your overall proposal over, a 12-week process. So it's not just kind of this dash at the last minute to try to create a proposal. So we work, like I said, over 12 weeks with individual businesses. It's like it's once a week we meet with you. We go over just general pitches. We do case study examples of successful SBIR or STTR proposals, so that you have an example of kind of what you should be doing or how you should be moving forward. And we walk you through ideation exercises to make sure that the documents or the proposals that you're creating will actually tell the story that's necessary in order for you to get funded. So if you look at this kind of breakdown, the boxes on the top and the bottom are kind of our ideation exercises, and the part in the middle are all the different components, your standard components for an SBIR proposal. It might differ slightly depending on the agency, but essentially they want to know who you are and why it's you that should be bringing forth this technology or to solve this particular problem that the agency is looking for. A general abstract, objectives, and anticipated results. So if this is a phase 1, what are you planning to do with the government's money for 8 to 12 months, right? The technical plan, testing and metrics, how will you know that that plan will be successful? And then eventually the goal is not just research for research's sake. They do want to try and make sure that it becomes a commercialized product, right? So you have to be able to show them, at least in this initial phase, some path to commercialization. Just some initial success stories. In the first 6 months, the Invent Illinois program has already been able to recruit 14 companies. And by the end of June, actually each and every one of those companies will have a tangible proposal submitted to one of the agencies, NSF, NIH, DOD, across the board. And most importantly, and the thing that I think we're most proud of, is that 71% of those companies have been women, minority, or veteran owned. And when you take a look at that, comparing it to any of the incubators in Chicago, that type of number is really incredible when you consider that these are all high science, intense research companies. So I think it's really amazing job that we've done at the WBDC. Not that they're not there, it's just that they need to be reached out to and found and supported in a tangible way. And that's something we've been able to do. Here's a list of some of the companies that we've actually had a chance to support. A few highlights here. AP Designs is a medication adherence device. They apply to NIH. MOHOP is the sustainable 3D manufacturing of custom footwear. They'll be applying to NSF. Cummins Facilities Management is actually an interesting case because they are developing nanofiber self-decontaminating material. So that's a fancy way of saying they're creating the next generation filter that can actually render viruses and other toxic gases innate. They're interesting because one of the unique things about Invent Illinois is that between myself and some of our facilitators, we have unique relationships with some of the federal labs in the state. So much so that we can actually gain access to the technologies that they have sitting on their shelf collecting dust, waiting for somebody to come by and license it from them. And what we do is actually we look at the companies that come through our cohort and then go to those agencies and say, look, this company is in the facilities management space, cleanliness, environmental cleanliness. Do you have any technologies that we can actually license or help this company license so they can kind of take it through their channels and help develop it? So imagine a company that doesn't necessarily have a lot of R&D budget or scientists that are sitting around creating things, but you have the channels, you have the business model, and all you need is a unique product or an additional product to add to your service line. We can actually help facilitate that relationship with the federal lab and say, look, you need to license this technology to this company, or we can help facilitate that process. And Cummins is one of those examples that they're actually taking forward a technology that was licensed from the Navy research labs and nano self-decontaminating material, and they're moving forward with trying to launch it into their product line. So that's in addition to just supporting individual companies with their R&D, we have the unique ability to actually pair a company with technology from a federal lab, which is a unique value prop. I won't get into T-Nebula just because I know we're short on time, but it's a unique discovery platform that we're working with some of the federal labs. Most of you may or may not know that, once again, federal labs create lots and lots of technology, but it's very hard for them to get it out of that space because they need entities to kind of license them. And T-Nebula is something that we're working on with these federal labs to actually put synopsis or abstracts of their technology on a platform so that people like you can kind of easily identify technologies that might fit into your space and then contact us to see if it's something that you want to use or try to license yourselves. We have a company showcase coming up. The most important thing about this slide is probably my email address because the date has changed and the location has changed since I submitted this. So if you're interested in learning more about Invent Illinois, if you have any more questions about SBIR or how to go about applying for it successfully, please shoot me an email. I'm very accessible. I'd be happy to get on a conference call with you, talk about your business, talk about your technology, and discuss what agencies you might be able to go after for free funding. And I'll wait for questions.
I want to ask Dr. Grant to join us up on the platform. Are there any questions for Dr. Grant or Jason Rebello? Any questions about the SBIR STTR program? So, thank you, Lowetta. She's down there.
Hi everyone, my name is Cameron Watson. I run a small development company outside of a small town locally in Peoria, Illinois. If anybody knows where that's at, I drove 3.5 hours here, walked a mile up here just so I could get here. Ironically, the guy that had the most information that I've wanted to was sitting directly right next to me. But I'm probably, I don't know, I can't see a lot of you guys, but I'm probably the youngest one, if not the youngest one here. I'm only 22, but I'm a recent graduate of the University of Iowa. But my question is more structured around the funding and the technology. So where I've been struggling with is I've been having problems with coming up with a platform or a software that would be, I guess, used to help smaller businesses succeed with contracts. And what I was, the question I have for you is, with Invent Help, how long have you, how long have you been in, been assisting businesses with help of funding?
Invent Illinois has been around just for the last 6 months, actually, so it's a very new program funded through the FAST grant and the SBA.
And you said you have helped 17 companies. Did I hear that correctly?
14 companies, yeah,
14.
within that time frame.
Now, are you, like, goes back to the mentoring thing, are you open to mentoring companies as well?
Oh, absolutely. If I didn't mention that, that's something we definitely do. So not only do we help you through the pre-submission process, helping you with your proposal, but even after the fact, after you finished our cohort, whether or not you are successful in getting a grant or not, we, the WBDC in general, takes you on as a client for free, and we can work with you, hands-on with one-on-one counseling throughout your entire process.
All right, thank you.
Hi. Who is the decision maker on contract, on awarding the contract?
I'll let Dr. Grant speak to it first, but go ahead.
For the NASA's SBIR contracts, we have a source selection official. So we, after going through an evaluation process, our source selection official does the final selection.
So it's typically a panel of experts within that particular space. So whether it's if it's NIH, NSF, whatever the specific topic is, they bring in people that are considered subject matter experts to review the proposals, grade them, and then the best ones end up getting funded.
Thank you.
What's interesting is that I think something that people don't know about, and it's something we've been able to support our companies do with a great deal, is that there's a window of opportunity before proposals come out to actually engage some of the agencies. So you can actually have a much more unfiltered conversation with program directors to find out whether or not your technology is a good fit, how you should go about kind of adjusting your proposal. They're much more amenable before a proposal comes out. Once a proposal comes out, just like any other RFP, they have limited ability to kind of talk to you. So we've been able to successfully make sure that our companies have actually had actual conversations with program directors that have given them really intense feedback on their concepts, essentially telling them what areas of weakness their executive summaries have, and if they're interested in applying, where they're going to have to kind of beef things up. So that's one of the many things that we do with our companies. It's not just the writing of a grant, it's the behind the scenes effort it's going to take to kind of get your proposal funded.
So that being said, I would suggest for the NASA program, SBIR, STTR, we have what we call an industry day. We have it once a year. And we open that up to the public. We want to hear from you. We actually open our solicitation and talk about the types of problem statements we have. You get a chance to talk with a subject matter expert in the particular area that you have interest, to include the topic manager and subtopic manager. And so you'll have those experts there if you avail yourselves of that. Also, if you look at the solicitation that I mentioned earlier, on that website, you will note we have in our 10 NASA centers, there are what we call center technology transition leads. Their phone numbers are on the website. Call them. They can talk with you specifically about any problem statement that you have and would like to know more about.
Yes, I was wondering, when a company pursues either SBIR or STTR, there's an intellectual property agreement, correct?
Yes.
And what is generally specified in that agreement? Does the government pay for a license to use the technology that a company might provide?
We paid when we fund the research. We paid for the right to use that per se.
But is there a royalty? Is there a royalty paid to the company?
Oh no.
No. So it's a freebie for the government, correct?
No.
So we are paying for the right to use that.
Right, but after it's if a company commercializes its own technology, then what?
That's something. Eve is our.
So
Somebody, can you raise your hand?
There is a FAR clause that does go over the rights.
One second, we need a microphone. We need a microphone. Thank you.
It's on its way.
Thank you so much.
IT is very important to small businesses. I am a procurement attorney. I'm not an IT attorney. I know a little bit about this. The SBIR, STTR rights are covered by a FAR provision. It is your data to use for 4 years. The government's ability to use it is limited. It is not a typical, the government can use it. It can't give it necessarily to another contractor to do the same thing with it, but it can look at it within that 4-year period. After the 4-year period, the government can do things with it. The SBIR is in the process of redoing the rights and data. I'm not quite sure where it's going to be, but every time you go and get something new, you get a new 4-year period right now. So if you get a phase 1, 4 years, phase 2, 4 years, post phase 2, 4 years, and as it goes, it's going to differ depending on your particular circumstances. Again, it is not a complete, the government has a right to use it. It is very limited, and the SBA will look to see if indeed we are taking away your SBIR rights. The whole concept of the program is by Congress in 1982 to give R&D money to small businesses so long as it meets the needs of the small business. And one of the things in the source selection process, they're looking for, will it work? Does it make sense? Can you do it within the amount that you can do it? And then they make a programmatic call because we want more good proposals than we can actually fund, which meet the best needs of the agency. So, and that's a programmatic call. That's the SBIR as I know it in a nutshell. Hopefully that answered some of your questions on data rights.
I think we're out of time, so we want to table that. Want to table that for the session.
I will be doing one-on-one matchmaking, so we can talk more.
I was just about to mention that. SBIR, STTR will actually have a table during the matchmaking session.